Hello and welcome to the 310 to Left podcast presented by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling truck for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Glad you could join us. Adam Pellerin and Kasey Hudson reunited for this post-Rafael Devers episode of 310 to Left, post-Rafael Devers era episode of 310 to Left. And still shocking, still unbelievable, but you know, you got a game in the books, and moving forward from here, we're going to look back at a bunch of things that went down last night. Obviously, the Red Sox on the West Coast, so you may have missed the entirety of Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow and President and CEO Sam Kennedy's address to the media, Alex Cora's address, players' reaction. So we have all of that for you. We'll get to that in a second. But Kasey, how are you? And has the shock worn off?
No, the shock has not worn off. I am doing well, one would say. But yeah, I was talking about it yesterday on air. Like, I was out and about in downtown Boston. Everybody just got done leaving Fenway Park, leaving the game. And so I was kind of in the midst of the initial, this isn't happening. This is a prank. Like, which TikTok is this? And we actually found TikToks where people were doing Father's Day pranks to their dads about this news. So shock is still very much a mist, but I will say coming around to seeing more perspective and understanding, because we've heard so much, as you alluded to.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And yeah, to your point about like the TikToks and the social media stuff, I saw another one. I saw the dads, and I saw another one with, a birthday gift. Somebody gifted a Rafael Devers jersey to their dad on Father's Day, and moments later he was traded to the Giants.
Like, what do you do with that jersey? I mean, if you're a longtime fan, I'm sure you still maybe get a shadow box for it, but just the timing of it, ouch.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, yeah, we've seen all the reaction from social media, people like you and I talking about it, but we hadn't heard from the team yet. And that's what we were waiting on. We were waiting on Craig Breslow, Sam Kennedy, Alex Cora, and all the players to react to this. And it finally happened last night while the Red Sox were on the left coast. So, first, we will bring you Craig Breslow and Sam Kennedy talking about the trade, what led up to it, and where the Red Sox go from here.
His contributions across the organization. I want to let everyone know that obviously this decision was not taken lightly, nor did it come suddenly. We obviously, over the last week or so, reached an inflection point, and as difficult as that inflection point was, as the hallmark of this organization, I guess, over the last 24 years, we acted boldly and decisively, and we came to the very difficult decision to make a deal that we think serves the best interests of the Boston Red Sox in the short term and in the long term. I'm really grateful on behalf of John and Tom and Mike Gordon and everyone in the Red Sox ownership group to Craig Breslow and his staff who worked tirelessly on this deal. And we're pleased to be here tonight to talk about it and answer any questions you have. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions for me or for Craig, who I see is on the screen with me. So we'll open it up for questions. Abby, over to you.
And with that, we can begin with questions.
Okay. Craig, I just wanted to ask, you said kind of repeatedly this year that everything you've been doing in terms of moves and everything was with this year in mind. Just wanted you to explain like how this move kind of helps the team for this season.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I understand why the initial reaction would be that it'd be tough to sit here and say when you move a player of Rafi's caliber, when you take that bat out of the lineup, how could I sit here and say that, we're a better team? And I acknowledge that, kind of on paper, we're not going to have the same lineup that, that we did, but this isn't about, the game that is played on paper. This is about the game that's played on the field, and ultimately about winning the most games that we can. And in order to do that, trying to put together the most functional and complete team that we can. And so I think when you consider the flexibility, the ability to give some of the young players some run, the opportunity to maybe repackage some of the resources and fill some voids in the roster as early as approaching this year's deadline, and being really intentional about the environment that we create for these young players to thrive in, then I do think that there is a real chance that at the end of the season we're looking back and we've won more games than we otherwise would have.
Greg, the Giants ended up assuming all of Rafi's remaining contractual obligations. How big a factor was that in pairing with them? And was there a mandate to unload as much, if not all, of his contract to facilitate a trade?
Yeah, no, working backwards, there was no mandate. The mandate is to assemble the best team that we possibly could. And in order to do that, we needed to create a more functional roster, and give certain guys more playing time, be able to rotate through the DH spot, potentially match up there. And also, this is a roster that certainly has some needs, and we can talk about starting pitching and bullpen help, and we think that we addressed some of those in the return that we had in this deal. But additionally, I do think that it gives us some resources, like I said, as we head toward the deadline.
Sam, you mentioned that you all reached an inflection point, and I'm curious, from your perspective, why didn't this situation with Rafi work out in just the second year of a $300 million deal?
Yeah, thanks for that, Julian. In the end, I think it's pretty clear that we couldn't find alignment with Rafi. Is the truth. We all worked at it over the last several months, going back to the off season, starting with Alex Cora and Craig and the staff. And then up to me and all the way up to John Henry. We worked at it. We had a different vision for him going forward than he had, and we couldn't get there. We couldn't find alignment, and we reached that inflection point and made the decision to make a big move.
And Craig, just this for you, is there anything, looking back on the situation, dating back to spring training, obviously you guys got Bregman, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah, I think about that question all of the time. This is not the outcome that we had expected, and it's forced me to reflect on the interactions that I've had, not just with Rafi, but with other players, and opportunities to communicate differently. Anytime you get to this point where, as Sam said, you reach an inflection point and you fail to reach alignment. I need to own things that I could have done better. And I don't know if this outcome would have played out any differently. I think that there's a decent chance that it wouldn't have, but I absolutely need to have the humility to think back on the interactions and figure out what I could have done better.
Question for Sam and maybe Craig, kind of following what Julian was asking, what if you could tell the fans a little bit perhaps of was it strictly the on the field, the position moves or what have you? Was it off the field? Was it leadership? What were some of the things that you were looking for from Rafi that prevented it? And were you worried that it would affect the team long term? Well,
First of all, I want to express an understanding of empathy for anytime you see a star player leave the organization, especially the Red Sox organization, it's hard on fans. And Brez and I are in the privileged position to be in a spot where from time to time we have to make really hard calls and hard decisions. As is John Henry and Tom Werner and Mike Gordon and our ownership group. That goes with the territory. These decisions are on us. And so we understand that many fans may be feeling disappointment. And so we understand that. In terms of what was missing, it just was that alignment in terms of what we felt we needed that would be in the absolute best interest of the ball club. That's a non-starter for us. We have to have that We couldn't get there. And as Brez said, maybe we need to look back at things we could have handled better. But it's definitely a two-way street. And we didn't get to the alignment that we needed in the best interest of the Boston Red Sox. So we made the decision that we made, and we're also excited about what's coming back. Brez and his team worked tirelessly to upgrade our pitching in this deal, and so appreciative of that. But that was Rochi. That was the main thing.
Sam, this is Dan Shaughnessy for Sam and Craig. Would you guys characterize this as a baseball trade?
Well, I'll start, Dan. Appreciate the question. It was a baseball trade because we did what we felt was in the best interest of the Red Sox on and off the field to win championships and to continue to ferociously and relentlessly pursue a culture that we want everyone in that clubhouse to embody, and doing everything in their power, night in and night out, to help the team. So yeah, it was a baseball trade without question. Brez, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, would just echo that, and obviously the quality of the return, we're going to see how that plays out over the next several years. But we're absolutely excited about bringing Jordan Hicks, a dominant late inning reliever, into our mix, and Kyle Harrison, someone we think can pitch in the front half of a rotation. We've identified some development opportunities for him that we're going to work through, and then in James Tibbs, a first rounder from last year, an athletic profile, someone that makes great swing decision, and someone we think can excel in our PD infrastructure, and Jose Bello, an exciting young arm. But again, we've talked a lot about, for some reason, this team, being an example where the whole was not greater than the sum of the parts, and being great teammates and sacrificing and stepping up for each other and embodying this shared vision. We believe that those are principles that we need to be faithful to, and so at the end of the season, I think we could look back and say we've won more games than we otherwise would have, because of the way that this roster is now able to come together.
And one follow-up, if you would, was having the other team assume the entire balance of Rafael Devers' contract. Was that a condition of making a deal with the team?
No,
I can answer that. No. We were trying to improve the long and short term outlooks. We were trying to provide some additional roster flexibility, and we were trying to make the best baseball trade that we could.
Sam, on NESN last week, you said that you believed when Devers, or when you guys asked Devers to pick up a glove, he'd be ready. Did you believe that when you said it, or was that just trying to kind of make things publicly?
Yeah, I think it's probably my own fault for being eternally optimistic. And so I believed it when I said it. I was sitting in the NESN studio watching imagery of Rafi take ground balls. So yeah, I thought we'd ultimately get to a place of complete alignment, but we couldn't. So we did what we did.
Hey, Sam, couple questions, Sam, for you and Brez. This is Steve Burton here.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, guys. Did Rafi actually request a trade? And when he found out the news, and when the team found out the news, how'd they handle that? How'd they take that?
Yeah, I can jump in. There were times during the course of conversations with Rafi's camp, where they had indicated that perhaps a fresh start would be best for both sides. We were committed to trying to work through this. And like Sam said, ultimately we weren't able to achieve that alignment. But this does represent that chance to reset on our end and for Rafi to get a fresh start, with a historic franchise. So that's kind of how that came about.
Was he shocked when he heard it?
There was definite surprise. I think the reaction from the group was surprise. But at the same time, as they started to talk amongst themselves, and even some of the quotes that have come out today. This is a group that believes in themselves, and a group that we have a ton of belief in. And I think that they are very businesslike in terms of recognizing we've got a game tonight to win in Seattle, and we've got 26 guys that are committed to doing that. And I think while we're at it, important to point out that this is in no way signifying a waving of the white flag on 2025. We are as committed as we were 6 months ago to putting a winning team on the field, to competing for the division and making a deep postseason run.
Question for you. You said it's purely a baseball trade and money wasn't the driving factor here. Did things become so untenable that you felt you had to make this move?
I don't think that would be a fair characterization. I think, where we got to was believing that making this move made more sense for us than not making it. And if we didn't get the return that we, that we were holding out for, then we wouldn't have made it. But, the only commitment that I have ever made to any player, any staff member, anyone in the office or ownership, was to do what I believed was best for the Boston Red Sox. And this was that.
But to follow that up, this is a generational talent in Rafael Devers. Right now, you guys receive 3 guys that are at the minor league level and 1 guy that's on IL. So are you understanding why fans aren't seeing that and taking it maybe as face value, and that things must have been pretty bad for this to go through, is what I'm saying.
I understand the reaction from fans, the criticism that we are taking, the surprise. I do understand all of that. And I also will stand here and say that we would not have made this trade if we didn't think it was best for the organization and the vision and the beliefs and culture that we're trying to create. We have a number of young players who are in the big leagues, and we're really excited about them, and we're very, very deliberate and intentional about the environment that we want to create. And ultimately, we believe that we're positioning the organization to win a bunch of games, both in 2025 and beyond.
So Craig, along those lines, Craig, with the timing, a multi-parter on the timing, was the call up of Anthony to join Meyer and Campbell kind of a catalyst in the timing here? And if you can kind of talk about how the process came together, why it ended up, like whether or not you were approaching this as a broader based exploration of the market, or if you identified the Giants as a potential partner and just negotiated exclusively with them. How did you proceed from a timetable standpoint?
Sure. So I think Sam had said it best when he said, this was not a decision that was made lightly or that was made suddenly. You don't trade Rafael Devers simply because you have a player coming off the IL and you need to make a move, right? But we are mindful of balancing, what we believe to be this, kind of really exciting young core with, the opportunity to play in the big leagues. And there were a number of paths that we felt like we could explore in order to get a more kind of cohesive and more functional roster. This was one of them, and it was ultimately the path that we went down. Now, whether or not we negotiated with one team exclusively, I have seen some commentary that we didn't shop this deal, whatever that means, and I don't know that it makes a ton of sense to get into the kind of mechanics or strategy, but I do believe we had a thorough process and we had a good idea of what the market would or could look like, and this was a deal that we felt like made sense, and the reason that we executed it, as difficult as it was.
Craig Breslow and Sam Kennedy talking about the Rafael Devers trade. There's a lot to digest there, so we'll give you an opportunity to do that when we come back. We will hear from Red Sox manager Alex Cora and much more. This is the 310 to Left podcast presented by your New England Ford dealers. Welcome back to 310 to Left. Adam and Kasey back with you. So we heard from Sam Kennedy and Craig Breslow. A couple of words we heard multiple times. First of all, the Red Sox had reached an inflection point with Rafael Devers. They weren't in alignment. We heard the word alignment quite a few times. And then also addressing the culture as it relates to the young players. So I thought all that was interesting, Kasey.
Yeah, absolutely interesting. And I mean, the surprise and the shock all around that was also somewhat addressed, but them kind of clarifying that these conversations or these discussions may have already started to kind of table itself months ago when they realized that they weren't really going to come to much of a compromise. So it's good to have clarity on it while everybody's still processing everything and what this team's going to look like moving forward. I did appreciate the question on if there was a hand in the fact that you get Roman Anthony called up, you get Marcelo Meyer called up, you start kind of giving these prospects those opportunities to get those big league reps, and it kind of just shows that there's potentially a trajectory that this team started to feel like they needed to head in order to make this season kind of worthwhile.
Yeah, and now it's the job of the roster and Alex Cora, the manager, to move forward without Rafael Devers. Here's what Cora had to say in Seattle ahead of Game 1 of their series in regard to the Rafael Devers trade.
I guess what has been the reaction like with the guys, and how have you kept them together after trading Rafi?
I mean, obviously, it's a huge day, right? And our job is to show up today and play the Mariners. And you talk to players, and just want to make sure everybody is in the same page. And we're in a good spot. Obviously, the guy means so much to that group, means so much to the organization, to the city of Boston. I'm not going to hide it, but at the same time, we got to show up. We're playing good baseball. They're one of the teams that are ahead of us, so try to win the series.
Were you in constant communication with the front office so that everybody said they found out on the plane, but did you kind of know after the game heading to the airport?
We always had conversations and had an idea what was going on, obviously, but at the same time, it's not a given. It's not 100%. 100% that it's going to happen, right? But the front office, ownership, and the group, they do an amazing job, keeping the lines of communication and telling me what's going on. So yeah.
After the trade happens, what was your message to the group?
We got to keep going. That's the bottom line. We put ourselves in a good spot, right? We have played good baseball for an extended period of time, right? Now we have to do it without Rafi, but at the same time, we added some pieces that we do believe they're going to help us, especially obviously in the pitching department, and that's something that we've been talking about throughout the off season and early in the season. We have to pitch, and these two guys, in my opinion, they're going to impact the big league team at one point.
How would you describe the mood of the players and the coaches kind of on that flight? I mean, it's a 6-hour flight. You guys just found out. Was it a weird?
Yeah, in the beginning, of course, but then after that, it's business as usual. Coaches have to prepare for the series. The boys, they play cards, and obviously they had their conversations, but, it's a long flight anyway. So, obviously the news came up early, and then after that, I don't want to say business as usual, but it was a regular flight.
You were part of obviously a big trade as a player, the Manny trade. When a big bat like that gets traded, for the clubhouse of the team, is he just like turn the page, or what's that feeling like?
If you go back to that one, it was, towards the end of the season, and when it really, this matters. Don't get me wrong, but at that point we traded Manny, and we had an off day I think that day, so we were able to kind of like digest it and show up the next day. Jay Bay showed up, and we kept going, right, and we were one game away from making it to the World Series, all banged up, right? So it's not the first trade that goes down, it's how this game goes, right? And one thing that we have to do, and I know it sounds harsh, we have to turn the page and be ready for Seattle.
Do you think with the guys you do have in the clubhouse that you can adequately replace Rafi, or at the very least, manage his loss?
Rafi Devers is Rafi Devers. He's a special hitter, and we all know that. But there's an opportunity for other guys to get at bats and contribute.
Why do you think it didn't work out? 2 years into a 10-year deal.
There's some reasons that it didn't work out, right? And I don't want to, pinpoint stuff, whatever. But the last few months hasn't been easy, right? We made decisions in the off season. Circumstances have changed the last month, and this is a decision we made as an organization. Now Rafi's going to be with the Giants, and like I said, we have to turn the page and be ready for this team.
What did Rafi think when he found out?
He shook our hands and he took off.
What's the status of Hicks? What do you foresee in terms of getting?
I think he's going to throw a live VP in the upcoming days, and then we'll see where we at. I don't know if a rehab assignment is coming up, but he's getting close.
You looking at a late inning reliever? Or?
We haven't talked about that yet.
So he's joining the team here, or he's going to
Boston.
All right, Alex Cora, not getting into details, obviously, asked about what went wrong over the last couple of months, 2 years into a 10-year deal. He's not going to get into details. As a manager, he's all about turning the page and moving forward, and that's exactly what you heard from Kasey.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, it's what needs to be done in terms of turning the page. Not to disrespect what Rafael Devers means to this team or meant to this team. It's just more so the fact of all the other conversations taking place, this team trying to find consistency, them being on a winning streak. And I only say that because of the question in that trade comparison and him mentioning the fact that like they had a down day when that trade happened. And, it's kind of the opposite of what we saw when they took on the Mariners for that first, the top of the series last night. And some positives coming out of it for Roman Anthony. So, of course, business is turn the page and focus forward. I'm sure there was a lot more emotion on that plane, though, because there was so much shock around it, and you're thinking somebody's getting ready to head cross coast with you, and then they're not. So definitely more to it, but honestly, it's good to see the comparison and what happened when that trade went down in comparison to then versus now.
Yeah, in a way, it's almost good that they had this West Coast trip, right? Because they got a chance to just kind of sit on the plane and process it and, the terms with it, right? Because sometimes you see trades that happen the morning before a game. And so all of a sudden you're hit with that, and then you got to play the game that night. And then answer questions about it. So the Red Sox didn't have to deal with that. They had some time, they had overnight, and then they were answering questions about it, obviously, on Monday before game one of the series. And so we heard from Craig Breslow and Sam Kennedy in their press conference with the media addressing the Rafael Devers trade. Well, our own Jahmai Webster had a chance to go one-on-one with Breslow. Here's that.
All right, thank you very much. Here with Red Sox Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow, and Craig seemed to be a lot of shock when it initially went down. How long had the deal been in works to trade Rafi?
Yeah, we had some initial conversations a few weeks ago, and there's kind of like a natural ebb and flow to those conversations. Times where you feel like we're miles apart, and other times where you feel like, oh, this really could happen. But ultimately, it got to a point where we felt like executing on this trade was what was best for the Boston Red Sox, and that's the commitment that I made when I took this job.
You mentioned that point, and you guys mentioned there was an inflection point. When did you realize it was probably at a position where you guys would not come to a resolution and the move needed to be made?
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint, exact date on the calendar or event. I think it's just, it required some zooming out because it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day kind of operation in this role. But zooming out and looking at just the sequence of events that got us here and just our lack of ability to find common ground and alignment about, what the team needed. And again, we felt like this was what was best.
When you consider what's happening on the field, the team's feeling good, finally got a game over by 500 on their best winning streak of the season. Can you, I guess, take a step back and realize how the timing may be a question mark behind that?
For sure. I'm not sure there's a perfect time to trade Rafi Devers. But at the same time, we needed to be committed to doing what we believe to be right, even if the timing was imperfect. And obviously, after sweeping the Yankees and gaining momentum, it did feel like a bad time to break this news. But ultimately, I think if we're anchored in doing what we believe is best, then baseball's a long enough season where the team is gonna come together. They're gonna remain focused, and we're gonna win games because of it.
He was just in the second year of that long-term deal, obviously predated you, but looked at widely across baseball as a superstar, a foundational piece, which is what was said at the time. How do you view the foundation of the organization now?
Yeah, well, no doubt Rafi is an incredibly talented hitter, and we saw what he's capable of doing and the way that he's carried this team at times, predating me, but certainly over the last season and a half or so. And, now I think as you look at the foundation of this team, there's a lot of really exciting young talent. that's making it to the big leagues and impacting our club and playing alongside guys like Jarren, and Alex Bregman, who in a really short amount of time has really positioned himself as kind of a leader on this team, and the extension that we had with Garrett as someone who can pitch at the front of the rotation. I think those are the guys that you point to among others, but I think more than anything, the foundation of this team needs to be this identity and willingness to put the team ahead of any individual, to step up for each other in times of need, to make sacrifices, and always put the Red Sox ahead of any individual.
You're here in Seattle. I'm not sure if this was a pre-planned trip, a part of the travels that you make over the course of the season, or was it just so you can get in front of the team and address them personally?
Yeah, I felt like it was really important for me to be here with the team. It's not a trip that I was planning on making, but I'm here to answer questions that anybody has, to make sure that our guys understand that we believe in them in the same way that they believe in each other, and in no way should this be taken as waving the white flag on our season, but rather an opportunity to continue to come together and play good baseball.
I'm sure, as you can understand, having played here, now being executive, the fan base also looking for some answers, some scars there from other homegrown talent that have been maybe traded away at an inopportune time that they see. What can you speak to the people who are invested in this team, financially and emotionally?
Yeah, this was the hardest decision that I've ever had to make in this role, and I understand the frustration and disappointment and criticism. It's really hard to sit here and say that on paper we're a more talented team when you take Rafi Devers out of our lineup, but this isn't about this isn't collecting the most talent on paper. This is about building the best team, the most functional team that we can, and winning the most games. And we believe that as a result of this trade, when we look back at the end of the season, we'll have won more games than we otherwise would have because of the flexibility that this move affords us, the ability to play some of our young players, the opportunity to repurpose some of the resources that we have as early as this trade deadline to address some needs. So, I get it. But at the end of the day, we're going to be evaluated by wins and losses. That's the way that it should be, and we hope that we will be viewed favorably at the end of the season.
Lastly, I'll get you out of here with this. As you mentioned, not waving the white flag on the season. How do you view the rest of this year, and what's your expectation?
Yeah, we came into this season believing that we were capable of competing for the division and putting together a deep playoff run. That hasn't changed. As the season has gone on, we've definitely played inconsistently. We haven't gotten starting pitching at a time when we were scoring a bunch of runs. We haven't scored runs at times when we were getting really good pitching. Our hope is we can sync those things up and we can play really good, clean baseball. And I think it's equally important right now. We've got some flexibility and more functionality for Alex to manage this roster, and we've got 26 guys in the clubhouse who believe in themselves.
Craig, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Send it.
All right, Jahmai Webster's one-on-one with Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow. We heard from Sam Kennedy earlier, along with Breslow when they addressed the media. We heard from Alex Cora. But coming up next, Kasey, we will hear from the players. Prior to Game 1 of the series against the Mariners, the players weigh in on the Rafael Devers trade. That's next on the 310 to Left podcast presented by your New England Ford dealers.
Welcome back into 310 to Left, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. Kasey alongside Adam Pellerin. And as Adam promised, before we cut to our quick break, it's time to hear from the players and see what their reactions were, starting with Garrett Crochet. Take a listen here.
But right now it's just on us to move forward. We went on a good run this past week, and, there were 26 guys that were playing hard. And, obviously we're one down, but somebody's going to come up and fill that spot. And right now it's just kind of that next man up mentality.
How would you describe the mood and reaction on the plane at the moment Rafi gets pulled off?
Yeah. I mean, it was a shock for sure. After what, the run that we just had this past week, after having, the day to process it, I think now we're just focused on moving forward as a group.
How do you process it or even make sense of it?
It kind of comes down for me to just doing my job, and obviously there's a lot of season ahead of us, so it's really just, keeping your eyes forward and knowing that there's still work to be done. Obviously this team still has high aspirations for where we want to be at the end of the year, but in order to get there, we got to play well. So it's a little bit of, let's just kind of keep doing what we've been doing, and a little bit of, let's make sure that when the trade deadline rolls around, we're in a good spot, and, we can be buyers and just continue to improve this team and be ready to go down the stretch.
Seems to be a
continuing theme for a lot of the guys we spoke with. Rafi was just one of 26. But a superstar player of his caliber, how much more impactful is it when you lose somebody like him?
Yeah. Obviously he has a big presence in the lineup. And we'll miss that, but we can't really just sit here and harp on that. I don't think that does anybody in this room any good. I don't think that that's what the fan base wants to hear us say either. Quite frankly, it's for us. It's let's just keep stacking wins. Like I just said, we're coming off of a really good week, but all that did was get us back to 500. We obviously have to keep pushing forward, and we still have a lot of ground to make up to be the team that we want to be.
As you said, you're coming off a good week. I mean, you've won 8 of 10, 5 in a row. So is it not surprising, but do you guys question why this move was made? Like, do you want answers?
You know what? I think that the front office doesn't owe us an explanation. Quite frankly, it's what they're doing is what's best for the team, and and we have to respect that. I think that as players, it's on us to just continue to do our job.
How surprised were you that the trade of Devers went down? Was the team's reaction?
Yeah, I mean, probably just as shocked as everyone else. I guess that's kind of the best way to describe it. Didn't really see it coming.
Is there a feeling of confusion just because of what the front office is doing? Just because he's one of the best hitters in baseball, and you guys were on a roll, and they traded him.
I mean, the timing of it, is comes at a weird time. We felt like we're playing really good, and I think it's a brutal reminder that this game's a business, and it's it showed its face, and there's a lot of things out of our control. So I think a weird time for sure, but we got a game to play tonight, and we're coming to win it. Has Craig and/or Sam addressed the team as a group? No.
Do you expect them to?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
How bizarre was it when it happened, and obviously Rafi gets off the plane, and do you know what's going on? Or what was that dynamic like?
Yeah, I mean, just a very unique situation. Just kind of a like I said, a mix of emotions. But yeah, in the moment we realized we hadn't taken off yet and something was going down. So, I hate to see him go. He's a good friend, good teammate, someone that, a lot of the guys look up to, and wish him nothing but the best. So you guys were physically, literally on the plane with Rafi, and then he got called to the front, or how did that go down exactly? Yeah, I don't think it's, right to share all the details, but I'll leave it at that. Has anybody from organization leadership addressed you guys? Yes. Alex? Yes. What was Alex's message? That's between the players and us. So we'll keep it at that. Did that come on the plane, or was it another time? Yeah, I won't share the details there.
What's the reaction of the team? I mean, when something like this happens, he's one of the best left-handed hitters in the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for us, he's a teammate of ours, or was, and obviously a really special player. But at the end of the day, the roster and the decisions that are made are kind of above our pay grade, and our job is to go and play and try and win games. So, I think at this point our kind of goal is to keep playing good. We've had a good past 10 days, and kind of push that front office at the same time, as we get towards the trade deadline, and hopefully we can make a good run here.
Did the timing of it feel weird just because you guys were on a nice winning streak? Like you said, you won 8 out of 10, 7 out of 8.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a player of that caliber, anybody that you've played a significant amount of time with, as Rafi has with a lot of guys in this locker room, I think it's it's a hairy deal, but that's part of the business, and there's obviously nothing we can do about it as players, and again, not kind of part of our job description.
You mentioned part of the business, which is true, but usually the part of the business stuff doesn't apply to sluggers in their prime. How unusual of a situation does this feel to you?
Well, I don't know. Probably, less for me personally. Just kind of some of the experiences of playing in LA for as long as I did, and obviously the Mookie situation and getting Freddie in the way we did. So, I've seen the other side of it, but obviously never kind of been a part of it this way. And, at the end of the day, we feel really good about the 26 guys we have on our roster and our ability to go win games and play good baseball. So, kind of the logistics of it is not really, up our alley.
How did Alex Cora try to kind of reset the mindset of the team?
You can ask him about that. That's not something I really want to touch.
Do you hope, though, that Craig addresses the team at some point just to talk about the direction of why this move was made?
No, I don't necessarily think that. I think from the outside perspective that would seem like a logical thing, but as we said, this is part of the business, and nobody deserves. We have no reason to get an explanation. They made a decision, and our job kind of remains the same.
You mentioned the Mookie trade from when you were in Los Angeles. Did your mind kind of go there, the parallels between this trade and that one, or?
There's obviously a lot of details that make it pretty drastically different. But it's hard not to draw comparisons to it. But I think it's a completely different situation.
You mentioned, having gone through this before, obviously being a veteran and seeing a lot of things in this game as it relates to the business side. But in those experiences and even how you said now you feel good about the 26, how do you guys keep the group together and insulated from some of the outside distraction?
At the end of the day, at some point this story's done and over and kind of written. So, obviously you guys will ask all of us about this for a few days. And at the end of the day, we keep winning, we keep playing good baseball. That's kind of our goal and what kind of gets rid of this stuff for us. Thanks.
What's your reaction to what went down with Rafi being traded? How'd the team react?
Personally, I didn't see it coming. It was just like a shock. But, at the end of the day, it is baseball and a business, and they made a decision that they thought was best for us, and we just got to stick by it and move forward as a team.
Are you guys upset that he was? I mean, he's one of the best left-handed hitters in baseball.
I wouldn't say upset. I think we miss him as a teammate, as a friend. That sucks to not be able to see him smiling every single day. But it is what it is. It's baseball. It's one of those things where it's we can't dwell on it because we got to play Seattle today and we got to play them good. So at the end of the day, it's we lost a friend, a close teammate, but we'll see him pretty soon. So we'll get to say our good goodbyes to him.
This is one of your best stretches of the year as a team. I think you're going 5 straight, 8 of 10. Did it come at a weird time, or did it surprise you because of that, and you guys do not know the direction of what the front office is thinking?
I think it just came as more surprise because it's Rafael Devers, not really the stretch that we were going on. I know we're playing good and stuff, but I think it was just I never would have thought Rafael Devers. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's baseball. It happened. We just got to stay together as a team and just keep moving forward.
When the initial reaction is shock, as you said, do you either individually or in conversation with teammates try to make sense of it and try to figure out what's going on?
Personally, not really, because I'm not really caught up in all that stuff. I'm just kind of I like to show up to the ballpark and try and play as hard as I can every single day. So, I'm sure there's other guys that probably think about it a little more deeply than I do, but I'm just kind of all right, what's next for us? What do we got to do to keep winning games and keep winning series?
What does this trade mean for this year's Red Sox?
I don't know. It's just a trade. At the end of the day, he's a great player, and it's baseball, and trades happen all the time. So,
kind of curious to see if you got there's still time left before the deadline. If you guys kind of do anything to sort of offset the loss of Rafi.
Yeah, maybe, but like I said, I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. I don't really like to play the who could we get? Oh, we got this much money, stuff like that. It gives me a headache just thinking about it. And I'm a simple guy. I just like to show up and play hard and hang out with the boys every day. So,
is the feeling different, or have you guys as a group moved past it already and ready to just line it up?
Yeah, like I said, it's you get used to seeing Rafi smiling every day and saying hi to him, and then you don't see him today. So I think it's more of a shock like that than anything else. We lost a good friend and teammate, but like I said, it's baseball and trades happen all the time, so it's just part of the game.
Do you think the front office should explain to you guys the thought process?
If they want to, that's their job at the end of the day. Like ours is to play baseball, and theirs is to do stuff to make us better. So I think at the end of the day, it's whatever they want to do. Yeah.
Do you think this makes you guys better?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't played yet, so we never know. But it happens. So it's whatever happens.
When Robert Murray tweeted out the news, like everybody thought, well, did he get hacked? Is this legit? Like, was that kind of the feeling on the plane at first, or the whole ride here? Like, kind of like shocked that it happened.
I don't have Twitter, so I just saw him get off the plane and just kind of thought like, oh, no way. But like I said, like, it's Rafael Devers. Like I was just shocked to see him leave the plane. But I mean, I napped most of the plane, so I didn't really have time to think about it. Me and Rob we're the best nappers on the plane, so we were right next to each other, passed out. So we didn't really have that much time to think about it.
What was Alex's overall message to you guys?
That he trusts everybody that we got right now. I mean, I trust everybody we have now, and we can't let one little thing deter what we got going so far.
It seems like more than one little thing. It seems like it's one thing for sure, but it seems kind of like a big thing, to be honest. Right?
Who's making it a big thing, though?
I mean, losing a great hitter, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's a great player, but at the end of the day, it's how many guys? 26, right? And it's just one guy. So we got 25 other guys that were pulling on the same line to win those series, not just one. So I think we got to think about it like that as a team.
Weird timing, unique timing. Crochet mentioning we're just getting to 500. So with that being said, we've got a lot of ground to make up. It's business. Yes, we lost a friend, we lost a teammate, but they'll get a chance to say their real goodbyes when they see him this coming Friday. But you know what? Trevor Story said we need to get the win. We need to focus ahead of tonight. And that was yesterday, obviously. And they were able to do just that, Adam. Pick up a 2-0 shutout win.
Question. No question about that. It was a good win. And by the way, we should probably talk a little bit about that before we wrap things up on 310 to left. And we'll take a quick break and do just that. 310 to left, presented by your New England Ford dealers.
All right, welcome back into 310 to left, brought to you by your New England New England Ford dealer. It's so interesting to talk about New England Fords. I'm getting used to that. But Adam, before we went to the break quickly, we were talking about the fact that the team was able to somewhat turn the page and pull off an important 2-0 shutout victory versus Seattle to get things going on the West Coast. What'd you make of this, considering in light of everything?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was awesome to see Roman Anthony hit his first major league home run and doing it in the same ballpark that Rafael Devers had done it back in 2017, which was just crazy. Also, the youngest Red Sox player to hit a home run, since Devers. So that's pretty impressive. But it's all about the starting pitching with this Red Sox team as of late during this win streak, winning 6 straight, season high. And we've seen quality starts in 7 straight for the Red Sox. They hadn't done that in 8 years, which is just kind of crazy to think about. But Lucas Giolito was outstanding last night, the 10 strikeouts, getting out of a big jam in the third with the bases loaded. First time in his career that he's got the bases loaded, no outs, that he's able to get out of that jam without letting up a run. So that was a huge step forward. And for Giolito, it's all about the fastball, and he's able to locate that. He had his highest average velo on the fastball last night, 94.8 miles per hour. So he was able to use that effectively, and obviously that makes your secondary pitches that much more effective. And again, the Red Sox, we talked a lot about it, the feast or famine offense, even with Rafael Devers was on the roster. We've seen that at times. They haven't scored a lot of runs over this 6-game win streak. They've only scored 17 runs, but what they've been able to do is win close games, and they've been able to, get out ahead, right? Scoring in the first inning last night, the Roman Anthony home run, playing from behind is difficult, but the Red Sox have been able to get these leads, and I think now they're 26-9 when they score first this year. So it was a huge step in the right direction, a good start to the post-Rafael Devers era.
Yeah, and I think that's what we heard a lot of, especially when we just heard from the players here. Like, they were finally finding their stride. They were putting together good games. They were finding more consistency. Of course, you kind of get a kink in the chain when you remove a big presence such as Devers from the lineup. But looking ahead, time for them to focus on game 2. You mentioned pitching, potentially Buehler on the mound, 2 and 3 on the road. These guys need to rally behind it again and find more consistency. We're at least seeing hot bats coming out of some of the younger guys, as we already discussed. So what do you kind of predict when it comes to tonight, if they can build off of what they did well over the course of the previous time?
Yeah, another tough test. Obviously, you'd like to see the offense get going a little bit more. I don't think winning these 2-0 games is obviously sustainable over the course of the 90 or so games they have left this year. But then again, you look at the starting pitching, and it's been great. That's not sustainable either. There's going to be some clunkers along the way. They're going to need the offense to pick them up at some point. Walker Buehler, again, coming off the injured list, had the ejection, a couple of rough starts. Coming off, one of his best starts in a Red Sox uniform, going 7 innings, allowing the 3 runs against the Rays. And so that was a step in the right direction for him as well. So hopefully, again, you get a good start, that sets you up for success. And hopefully the Red Sox can continue to do that, Case.
All right, the last question I got to dish out here really fast, Adam. Who would you prefer to put at DH at this moment? What feels right to you, potentially?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's going to be a rotating cast as Alex Cora and Sam Kennedy and more so Craig Breslow, I guess we're talking about, because you can't replace Rafael Devers. There's nobody in that clubhouse. There's nobody in the organization that's going to replace him right now. So what do you have to do? You have to use your roster flexibility to your advantage. Play the matchups just like they did last night. Against a right-hander. That's why you saw David Hamilton in the lineup. Base and Christian Campbell is the DH. So it's going to look a lot different. So hopefully the Red Sox can get it done once again and win another series. That would be 4 straight.
Yeah, well, we've all got a lot of reasons to stay up tonight, so everybody make sure you do your midday caffeine, see if the Red Sox can continue to find some success, as well as some hockey going on. Adam, Pellerin, Kasey, Hudson walking you through 310 to left, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, guys, stay safe.